and get something to eat. It's been a long day, so I do apologize. And there was no chat feature for me to notify the court.
Oh no, we just brought you in and no apology needed.
Good.
I had to take a break at one point and do the same. We've been doing this all day. You will not be last for whatever small consolation that provides you.
Okay.
We will continue to do this for at least one more case after you're gone, and maybe two. And so, unfortunately, you had two attorneys that snuck in ahead of you, and they had their hearing they thought would be 2.5 hours. It ended up being 3 hours and 15 minutes. I think that's within an acceptable range of variance. Things happen, but it was 5 or 6 witnesses total. So it was a lot. So the way that we will proceed is as follows. It's the petitioner's case and the petitioner's burden of proof. And so they have the opportunity to go first. I'll ask some questions from them to get the answers that I think are relevant. And typically in these hearings, what we consider or what we have to answer are a few questions, whether we have jurisdiction over the case, whether there have been acts of family violence committed by the respondent against the petitioner, and whether this order might help prevent those acts from reoccurring in the future. And so when the petitioner finishes giving their testimony, and when every witness finishes giving their testimony, they get to be questioned by the other side. And what that means is that counsel for the respondent will likely have questions for the petitioner after she makes her statement. And then any other witnesses that do appear to testify, they can be questioned by the other party as well. I'll do the best I can. Despite the fact that it's 4:37, I feel like I've done the best I could do most of the day, trying to keep things relevant and on task and on course, just to be as efficient with our time as possible. And so what I'll do to start is swear each of you in. And so you'll have a prompt to unmute on the screen, and I'll ask if you would to please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any statements you make to the court today will be the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
I do.
Thank you both. You can both put your hands down. All right. So, Ms. Reed, at the time you filed this petition, you were living with the respondent, Ms. Epps, in DeKalb County. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And you indicated on here that you were present or past spouses, or were you two still married at the time of filing in early February?
Yes.
And are you still married now?
Yes. But I did answer to the divorce papers. I just haven't received a court date as of yet.
So that's working its way through the system.
Yes.
Understood. All right. And so at what point was the decision made, to the best of your knowledge? I don't know whose decision it was.
Can you hear me?
I think the judge is frozen. I'm able to see. There you go, Judge.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was frozen or if someone else was frozen. All right, so I apologize, Ms. Reed. That question may not have come through, or your answer may not have come through. Your answer definitely didn't come through to me because I think my connection cut out. So at what point was it known to everybody that a divorce was going to be filed for?
The exact date was January 9th. Samira sent me an email stating that since there's no reconciliation, she's going to file for divorce.
And what was the living situation like from that point until you filed this order in February?
So prior to January 9th, we were cohabitating in the same household. She said that she was in therapy, working on her anger.
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this time. This sounds like testimony. If Ms. Reed would like to give an opening, but this is beyond the question that the court asked.
I mean, it was a pretty open-ended question. When we have one party pro se and one represented, I don't do this to put my thumb on the scale, but I try to ask the questions and get the information out. But I also try to be as conscientious as possible about not asking leading questions. Unfortunately, the trade-off for that is sometimes they do get handed the floor, but that background and scene setting is helpful. And if I need to steer them a different way, just for time's sake or relevancy, then I'll do so. So Miss Reed, you were living together in the house. Did you have the same room or separate rooms?
At that time, I will say that we went into separate rooms after Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving, Samara did black out and cursed my mother out and acted in an aggressive manner and a threatening manner. That's what led to me finally saying that I was done. I was tired of dealing with her abusive ways, physically, emotionally, verbally, and mentally. After that, she said to me that she was seeking therapy to heal from or to resolve her traumas that she was dealing with. So with that, her communication, she was attempting to communicate better. And as you see in the evidence that I submitted with the email from December 30th, and I'll tell you the exact page that it's on. Did I not? Okay, I didn't submit the email, but I do have it. I didn't submit the email. I submitted it for the divorce, but not for this one. But I do have the email where she stated that communication between us has been well. And I'll tell you exactly verbatim. One moment. As you see, the email is right here. It's from Samira. It reads, "I wanted to tell you this in person, but I don't want to wake you. I don't know if I'll be awake when I get home."
Hang on, ma'am. The attorney's trying to say something.
Your Honor, I understand what the court is saying, but Ms. Reed is reading from an email that she intends to tender into evidence, which is not proper. So I would ask that she just answer the court's question and not try to tender into in evidence.
Yeah. So that's fair. So, all right. So Miss Reed, what was
I'm trying to give the background, what led up to this. So you did ask the question, how was the situation prior to? So that's what I'm answering. I guess.
But we're trying to, usually that's a scene that can be set pretty quickly. And so I think that's what counsel is hoping for. And you definitely can't just read the email. So, because you put in your petition, we'll start this on January 26th, you put in your petition that Samira entered your room without your knowledge.
Correct.
Loaded the ammo from your gun without your permission. So did you two have separate rooms by January 26th?
Correct. Yes, we did.
And so each of you had your own bedroom in the home. Did you have separate parts of the home as well, or just separate bedrooms?
So on January 6th, she sent me that email regarding separate rooms, which I was fine with. So although we did have separate rooms at that time, some of my items were still in her room, which was the master bedroom. So I would go in there from time to time to get my personal belongings. How I found out that she entered the room and unloaded the ammo in my gun is that I went to check it and it wasn't there. Now, I do have recording of her mother stating that Samira did tell her that. She did that, although the text messages that I did submit for evidence, Samira did not answer to it. But unfortunately, the clerk did say that the format of the attachment wasn't accepted. So I just want to let you know that. But I do have proof of her mom acknowledging that Samira did tell her that she went into the room, unloaded the ammo, that she did go into the room and touch my gun. She didn't tell her the unloading the ammo part.
So when was the last time that she was physically violent with you?
I would say where she put her hands on me, it's been some time. I would say roughly 2022, prior to us moving, when we got into a big argument and I threw my wedding ring at her and she was on the couch. That was in the house in Smyrna.
Okay, and you said roughly 2022. So estimate a month or a season so that to help me get a better idea.
I know that it was warm out and I was still working. So this had to be, I want to say around April, March.
Okay,
around-
so not quite a year ago, but probably
No.
close to a year ago.
Correct.
And you said you threw your wedding ring at her, and then what did she do to you?
So when prior to me even leaving out, so it was basically a situation with Amazon. I had an inkling that she was doing things she wasn't supposed to do. So I threw the wedding ring at her. I don't remember if it was when I came back in the house later that night or before I left, but there was a push. Prior to that, was back in 2018 and 2019. So there has been a gap. There has been gap of her physical abuse, but as time progressed, the verbal got worse.
Okay, and so have there been any threats of violence, death threats, anything like that?
Death threats, no. The
Okay,
only thing that I can say was a threat of violence was on Thanksgiving that just passed when she blacked out and she did a gesture like this, but nothing where she came out and said, I'm gonna hurt you or hurt anyone that was in the house at that time.
I couldn't see what the gesture was. What was that?
Kind of like a buck.
Okay, so yeah,
Like
some people
that.
might call it
Yeah,
like
like
flinching at someone, like where you.
yeah. And
Okay,
my mother was present. My mother boyfriend was present, and the child, my mother's boyfriend child was there, but nothing verbally that was said by her.
and how close to you was she when she did that?
Um, I would say less than 2 feet because we were in the we were in the like den area.
Okay. Have there been any incidents that you can recall where this person has damaged your property recently?
So upon her entering my room and going through my stuff, which is part of the evidence that was submitted, going through my journal, she did throw my stuff out of the room. She did throw my stuff into the bathroom. And that's about it. She just basically started removing my stuff piece by piece when she realized that she wasn't having control over the situation, because she started with cutting me off from Amazon and then cutting me off from the usage of the Sam's Club to try to do things to antagonize me. The thing that really broke the camel's back is when she called AT&T and impersonated me and used my credentials to get the Wi-Fi cut off. and she started new Wi-Fi service with the same provider in the household. And the provider reached out to her to try to get her to cancel the request for the new service, which she refused to do. As well as she also cut me, she said that she changed the password for the security system. Whether she did or not, upon her changing the password, it kicked me out. So I was not allowed to have access to the cameras anymore.
And how long have the two of you been living together at that location?
The house was purchased in October.
Okay, so.
And
we're
prior to that, we
off
were
and say
living in,
4 or 5 months.
yeah, and prior to that, we were living in an apartment in Smyrna. Before, yeah, we were living in an apartment in Smyrna. She moved here permanently from Florida. I want to say around February, if I'm not mistaken, February of 2022.
All right. And so you described her taking some of the things out of the room and whatnot, but in the course of that process, I just want to make sure I'm understanding right. It wasn't that she was like smashing them or anything, but she was making messes, moving them around and taking them away from where they were supposed to be. Is that kind of the idea?
She threw some stuff on the floor, which caused them to break. I was not here when she did that, but I know that she did that because she was the only other individual that's in this household. But I don't know if she smashed it, but some of my items were broken. I did notice that upon me cleaning up my items. So I don't know if she intentionally smashed it, but some of my items were damaged. The items that were in the bathroom.
Okay. All right. I think that's all the questions that I have. Counsel, you can cross if you're ready.
Yes. Miss Reed, in the totality of you all's marriage, how many months have you all physically lived together?
If I'm not mistaken, she moved in either the ending of February
Of
to
what
the
year?
2022.
Okay.
So either February or March, I'm not sure of the exact month, but it was around then up until now, prior to her leaving on the 15th of February.
Okay, so out of the totality of the marriage, you all have only physically lived together
In the same
February
state.
in the
Mhm.
same state,
Mm-hmm.
February of last year, up until the time she vacated the home a few weeks ago, correct?
Correct. Prior to that, we
Mhm.
would see each other and spend time with each other, whether it's months, 2 months, 3 months, and we spent time months of duration during COVID as well, prior to my mother getting sick with COVID.
Okay, because in your petition, you state, due to the actions I fear for my safety, because for the past 5 years, I have been abused physically, emotionally, mentally, and verbally. And so, what I would like for you to do is tell the court how that occurred when you were only around your wife a few months during this entire marriage. You all
I
have
was not.
let me finish my question.
Go
You all
ahead.
have essentially had a long distance relationship the majority of this marriage, correct? So tell the court over the last 5 years how your wife has subjected you to this kind of abuse when you all haven't been around each other.
Well, Samira and I have been dealing since 2010. We got married in 2018. So prior to us even crossing that threshold of getting married, the reason why her and I did not stay as one union is because she was a functioning alcoholic. And she had, I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question. Okay. Although we weren't living in the same state, I did visit her quite frequently and spend a duration of time there, whether it's a month to 2 months and vice versa. In 2018, her and I did separate because of her verbal and emotional abusive ways. In 2018, I would say with her punching me in my chest, that occurred actually before we got married. We were in Georgia.
When did she punch you in your chest, allegedly?
So she punched me in my chest in June of 2018 because I did my surgery in May of 2018. I did my surgery May 12th of 2018, and we were in Florida. And I'm sorry, yeah, I did my surgery in Florida. When she punched me in my chest was actually in Lithonia when we were outside of her cousin's house when she was drunk, and she was upset about something that happened in the past with her mother, and she attempted to drive drunk, and I took her car keys from her.
Okay.
So,
Miss, hold on, hold on.
mhm.
Sir. I have a question for you. You're alleging now that Mrs. Epps punched you in your chest in 2018. Do you have a witness here today to corroborate that?
No, because there was no one there. It happened outside.
Okay. And
And I took
do you have pictures of bruises? Do you have anything other than the fact that you're stating that it happened? Anything to support that allegation?
There was no bruise. There
Okay.
was no bruise. She punched me in my chest because she knew that I had surgery and that area was very tender. So she punched me in my chest in an attempt to get away from me. That way I will allow her to drive because she wanted to get away from the house.
Okay. Did you call the police?
No, I didn't. I didn't call the police for a lot of things, protecting her image.
Okay. So your sworn testimony is that having had surgery, that your wife punched you in your chest after having surgery, yet you didn't call the police, you didn't report it, you didn't seek medical treatment, none of that.
My sworn testimony is that in June of 2018, Samira punched me in my chest because she was drunk and upset that I was taking the car keys from her, preventing her from drunk driving. There was no police report made. There was no bruising. And when a lot of things occurred between Samira and I did not call the police. In fact, a lot of people didn't know about it. Again, because I was protecting her image. Whatever went on in our marriage stayed between her and I, because that's just how it, at the end of the day, that's the person that I'm married to. So no one else is obligated to forgive her besides me. So a lot of things that did occur in our marriage, no one knows about.
Mrs. Reed, isn't it true that you're upset because your wife wants a divorce? And let me finish my question. You're using temporary protective order process to make it more difficult.
That is incorrect.
Mhm.
You
Answer
asked me a question and I'm answering it. Please allow me to fully answer it. That is incorrect. I'm the one who said I wanted a divorce from Samira. I'm the one who stated that I no longer wanted to be with Samira.
Mhm.
What Samira did was say that we were separated in July, which in fact we weren't. In order to file for the divorce, she didn't allow me a chance to, which is fine. I no longer want to be with her, but I did not file this temporary protective order to make the situation difficult. In fact, I was actually not saying anything to her or even basically staying out of her way to prevent that. And in the evidence of the text messages that I submitted to the court, you will see that in the text messages multiple times, I have asked her not to touch my things. And I have said to her that she's doing things out of retaliation. And I have been cordial with her. As well as you'll see text messages submitted from my mother.
Answer my question. Ms. Reed, you've answered my question.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned another incident in 2022 where you alleged that you threw your wedding ring at your wife and you alleged that she verbally abused you in response?
No, what I said was there was an occurrence with another. She said she wasn't dealing with the person, whatever. I seen the Amazon order. You're asking me to answer you. I'm ensuring that I answer your question thoroughly. I heard your question. I'm answering you.
I don't need the narrative. I just need.
Okay, but the narrative leads up to the question. the
Okay,
answer of the
ma'am, I'm going to
question.
jump in here. This is ridiculous. There is a question, there is an answer, there is an explanation. That is the sequence that we are going to follow. And so when you have that question, you're entitled to explain. But that starts with a yes, that's correct, or no, that's not correct, and then whatever follows. And even then, there are times that the parties may need to cut that off or steer it a certain direction. So, counsel, can you ask your question again?
Your Honor, I'm going to strike that question. I'm going to ask another question. Miss,
right.
What physical contact are you alleging that Miss Epps made with you in 2022 in Smyrna?
Again, the physical contact was when I believed that she was dealing with another woman, and I took my ring off and I threw it in her direction, which it hit the wall. I don't remember the exact sequence if the physical alteration happened before I left the house or when I came back in, but it was in the hallway near the room, and she pushed me. Because I was not trying to hear anything that she wanted to say, because I did not want to speak. So that's when the physical alteration happened.
Okay, I'm sure you mean altercation. So you're saying that your wife pushed you in 2022?
Yes.
When in 2022?
I would say this was March, April time. I don't know the exact month and date.
Did you call the police?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Again, when things occurred between her and I never called the police.
You answered my question, Ms. Reed.
Okay.
Now, Ms. Reed, you state that you, are you ready to proceed with this divorce?
Yes, I am. And I've answered.
Okay, so tell the court why, when the process server went out to the home on February 1st, you said that it was not you at home.
Because first of all, that question has nothing to do with
You're right.
temporary order of protection. But I'll answer it for you, but it doesn't have anything to do.
Please don't. It is 5:02 in the afternoon, and with all due respect to all parties who I do want to feel heard today, if we can confine the questioning to, I guess, the allegations of violence or threats of violence that were made by the petitioner, or other things that are relevant to those, then that would be best.
Your Honor, I don't have any additional questions for Ms. Reed. I would like to call my client.
All right. And just to confirm, Ms. Reed, you did not have any other witnesses you intended to call today. Is that correct?
I can call some witnesses. Yes.
I mean, there's nobody in my waiting room that I need to bring in here right now. Okay. No. Very good. All right. Ms. Epps, you were sworn in along with the other party earlier, and so you are under oath. And counsel, you can begin when you're ready.
Ms. Epps, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. If you can just speak up just a little bit louder.
All right.
Excellent. Ms. Reed, how do you know Ms. Epps? I'm sorry, Ms. Epps, how do you know Ms. Reed?
Oh, I met her in 2010.
Okay.
Yep.
And are you all married?
Yes.
When did you all marry?
July 23rd, 2018.
Okay. And when did you all separate?
We were last intimate in July 26th.
So. Okay. All right. And in July, were you all physically living in the same household?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at some point in time, did you all physically separate inside the home?
Not until I bought the house the weekend after Thanksgiving.
Okay. And so when did you all physically separate?
Physically, she started sleeping in the other room. She just never came back in the master bedroom after Thanksgiving.
Okay, so after Thanksgiving, up until the time that you physically left from the home, you were in the master bedroom and she was in the guest room, correct?
Yes.
Okay. At some point in time, did you advise your wife that you wanted a divorce?
Yes, I did. I came home on January 5th, and she told me that I tried to talk to her passively, and she told me that it was over. So the following morning on January 6th, I sent her an email about the conversation we had, that she said there's no reconciling. And I tried to create my own boundaries. And I told her that I was file divorce as well. And I
Okay,
asked her to take her things out of the room so that there would be some sort of separation.
and that was after you all had been physically living in two separate rooms
Yes.
for a couple of weeks. All right. Now, Your Honor, would you allow me to share my screen so that I can tender my evidence?
Was that already submitted to the court?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I think Madam Clerk pulls that up. I think there's some county restrictions on who's supposed to be co-hosted or not co-hosted on the county feed.
All right. Can you all pull up respondents exhibit number 2? Ms. Epps, I'm showing you what has been previously marked as respondents 2. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, that's the email I sent on January 6th. Yeah.
Okay, and did you accept the fact that the marriage was over and you wanted to create some boundaries between you and your wife?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Your Honor, I'd like to tender into evidence R2.
All right, Ms. Reed, any objection?
My only objection is that this email was sent the day after Samira opened my room door and came into my bed drunk, and I have evidence stating that in a text message that she sent to my mother. Trying to
Yeah, I would like, unless there's a,
she claims it was to
So, Ms. Reed, I'm going to jump in here. That is not an objection. That is a response to its evidentiary weight. And so you agree you received this message, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's really what we want to make sure, is that they didn't go into Microsoft Word, for example, and just draw this up and try to pretend that it was a communication between the two of you. So with that being acknowledged, it's admitted for that purpose.
Okay.
all right, so Ms. Epps, you send this email to your wife on January 6th, correct?
Yes. Yes.
All right, and did at some point in time around January 12th, did you contact us, consult with us, and retain us for divorce?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and when was your divorce action filed?
It was filed on January 24th.
Okay, and did we attempt to serve your wife with this action?
Yes, on February 1st.
And what is your understanding of what happened?
We can't do this.
That's not.
Do we have testimony to
nothing
be
to do
given
with
regarding the allegations of violence or acts of violence that were alleged?
Absolutely, Your Honor. I will move on. Let me pull up.
And in the interest of assisting with some of that, was the divorce in DeKalb County filed in DeKalb County?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so to the extent the dates of filings and whatnot might be relevant for consideration in this proceeding, they're going to be part of the court record, and I can look at those if I need to, or confirm them if we need to. But I don't think you need to walk your client through the procedural path that it may have followed there.
Okay, perfect, Your Honor. Well, if you will bear with me 1 second, let me move a little bit further down on my questions. Now, Ms. Epps, you heard your wife allege that you made an aggressive gesture to her on Thanksgiving. Have you ever made an aggressive gesture towards your wife?
No.
And did you make an aggressive gesture towards her on or about Thanksgiving time?
No, it was just she verbally attacked me, so I responded verbally.
Okay. Have you ever put your hands on your wife in a way to hurt her or to commit an act of family violence?
No.
All right. Have you ever threatened her?
No, I didn't.
Have you ever broken any of her things?
No.
All right. Give me 1 second. Now, Mrs. Epps, at some point in time, did your wife enter your room to change the living arrangements that you all had?
Yes, she did. She took the bed out the room while I was at work, and some furniture.
Okay, and these were furniture items that were already in the master bedroom that you all were using together and that you were exclusively using once you all separated, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, you heard your wife testify to an incident that occurred back in 2022 when you all were living in Smyrna. Was there ever an occasion while you and your wife were living in a residence in Smyrna where you put your hands on her in an aggressive manner in order to hurt her?
No, I didn't. And she threw the ring at me and she left and went to work. So that's how that went. I never got up.
Okay. And did you make physical contact with your wife at all, with any parts of her body?
No,
Okay. Now, you heard her testify that you punched her in her chest after a surgery in 2018. Did you ever punch your wife in her chest?
no, I did not.
Okay. Now, tell the court what happened after you notified your wife that you wanted the divorce. And just be concise.
Yeah, she responded to me on that following Monday through text while I was at work. And she came home and was threatening me because I changed the Amazon password. I think I submitted that as evidence.
Mhm.
And after she threatened me, I felt concerned about my safety. So that's when I had bought her the gun. It's in my name. I didn't take the gun because it's her possession. So I just decided to take the ammo out so she wouldn't notice. And I took that out on January 10th. So, and I filed for a TPO on the 25th. It was going to be in conjunction with me serving her the papers, but they dismissed it because they said that the voice note wasn't good enough because she didn't specifically say she was going to kill me. So
What did your wife say?
she threatened me and basically said she was going to get 50% of everything that I had. And if I sell my house, she gets 30%. And I don't know what marriage is. And if I do anything else, I'm going to find out who I'm really dealing with. It was 3 minutes of that. So,
Now, Miss Epps, the home that you all lived in, did you make the down payment?
yes, ma'am.
Is the home in your name only?
Yes, ma'am.
You all don't have any other assets, correct?
No,
You all don't have any children.
no.
So the only marital asset between the two of you all is this home that you purchased on your own with your down payment, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Epps, if you were to return home, do you believe that you and Ms. Reed could live in the home civilly while this divorce action works its way through the process?
Yes, I bought 2 more cameras for downstairs so I could sit in my living room and sit in my chair and watch TV. So I think it'll be fine. We haven't been talking. So I think it's fine. She usually goes in her room and she doesn't bother me. So
Okay. And
she
where,
huh?
I'm sorry, where do you currently have cameras?
I only have one in my bedroom, so I just been going home, locking myself in my room for the last 2 months now.
Okay. And did you recently purchase additional cameras?
Yes, it's coming today.
And those cameras record both audio and visual, correct?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, those are only questions that I have.
All right. So, ma'am, if you have questions for Ms. Epps that you think would be helpful in deciding the case, then you can suggest those questions at this time. Understanding that the two of you disagree on the facts, and for the most part, we're here because that can't be resolved otherwise. Do you have any questions that you think the court should be asking at this time?
Not at this very moment, no.
Mhm.
Again, some truth wasn't said, but no questions for her in particular. It's just that if we do end up in the same household again, I would like for her not to touch my personal belongings and to stay on her side in her personal area, and I stay on my side in my personal area, which is my bathroom and my rooms. That's it. And if we do cross paths in the kitchen, because it is one kitchen, that we just don't speak to each other. And that's it.
All right. All right. Counsel, do you rest?
Yes, Your Honor, I would just like to just do a very, very quick, less than 60-second close-in, just so that I can kind of tie this together for the court.
Okay.
So, Your Honor, essentially, these parties have been married for a very, very short period of time. And for the majority of their marriage, they were physically separated. They've only lived together February of 2022 up until the time that my client left the residence, okay? And so Ms. Reed obviously did not carry her burden. She didn't provide any proof or any substantial evidence to demonstrate that my client has, one, committed an act of family violence, two, that there's a high likelihood of a future act of family violence. This is a classic case of, oh, you now want a divorce, I'm going to make it difficult for you. And that's indicative of the fact that this was filed soon after she was served. And so where's the police report? Where is any proof of these physical acts of family violence? We have these weird dates, these weird times, and this weird explanation. Essentially what this is these parties don't have any assets. They don't have any minor children. My client purchased a home in her name only. She put the down payment on the home. She's been paying the mortgage, as Ms. Reed has been paying the utilities. And so once this divorce action started, Ms. Reed essentially filed this temporary protective order so that my client would have to leave the residence. This is a home that's in her name that she's paying for. Ms. Reed can't afford the mortgage. She knows that she can't. So all of this was to bolster the divorce action. And
Your Honor, I would like to say something to that.
I'm
She's
No,
finished.
that's not your turn yet.
So again, Your Honor, if you're looking at the time that these parties have physically lived together, it's been a very, very short marriage of them living together. My client wants this divorce done and over with and expedited. And this is just yet Ms. Reed's process of prolonging this so that for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a housing situation, I don't know what it is, but these parties can live civilly. I've reduced our evidence to show what the court was asking for, but my client hasn't done anything other than be civil, be respectful, and try to create boundaries between the parties. All she wants is for her to remain in the master bedroom, Miss Reed to stay in the guest room where she was, and for the parties to leave each other alone. And we believe that that can happen. So again, Your Honor, Ms. Reed has not carried her burden, and it's clear that this temporary protective order was filed out of retaliation the day after she was served with this action. After the process server went out on the 1st, and she told them that she didn't live there, that it wasn't her. And when he went back, after having a picture, same voice, same person, she was able to get served. The very next day, she came here and filed a temporary protective order petition. So again, Your Honor, these parties can live in the home civilly and Ms. Reed has not met her burden, what I would ask is that this case be dismissed. I would also ask for leave to file a brief on attorney's fees. Your Honor, my client was served on Friday. We had to scramble this weekend to prepare for this hearing. And so I believe she's entitled to the attorney's fees that she's paid us. So I would like to have an opportunity to brief the court on that because we didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this case to file a formal answer. So I would ask for leave to prepare a brief on attorney's fees.
Your Honor, I will.
All right. So we're now at 5:20. Ms. Reed, I got to hear your argument. And what I'll say is this. I'm not here to evaluate the motivations of the parties and how they got here. I'm here to evaluate the evidence that was presented by the petitioner, because at the end of the day, it is the petitioner's case and it is their case to prove. And these orders exist as an emergency mechanism to provide for the safety of the parties that seek them when there is ongoing and pervasive family violence and the problems that have been discussed. Even if I could put aside everything that was said after the petitioner rested their case, and we honestly probably could have stopped. If this was a criminal trial, there could have been what we call a directed verdict, where you say that the evidence in and of itself is insufficient to in a criminal trial find the person guilty. In a case like this, to issue an order. And the amount of time that has passed since the allegations of violence that are being discussed, nearly a year, even if 100% true, we could all sit here and say, hey, this happened in spring of 2022. That is not in and of itself grounds for a protective order on the last day of February 2023. And certainly, especially alarming, understanding the context and the timing in relation to surgery, the allegation that you were struck in the chest, it has almost no bearing, even if 100% true, even if you had video showing it happen, even if Ms. Epps sat here today and said, yeah, I did that, it has very little bearing on your qualifications for an emergency protective order in the context of the petition that was filed in at the beginning of February that's being heard at the end of February. I can't grant this order. I just can't. And so it will be denied based on the evidence presented during this hearing. And the things that the parties have represented during this hearing is what I hope will come to pass until alternative arrangements can be made. It is to the extent you can carve out your own separate spaces within the residence, do so. To the extent that you can safely, affordably, that one of you can make alternative arrangements, this seems the time to start doing so. And if the marching orders with respect to each other from you to you outside, I'm not a part of this moving forward, so to speak, but whether a polite nod is better or worse than no acknowledgement at all differs from person to person. And so I'm not going to get involved in how those very, very, very limited interactions should occur. But these are tough situations for everyone that goes through them. And so I wish you both the best as you move on to the next phases of your life, whether that be on your own or whether you find someone else with whom things are a better fit. And so, counsel, you're welcome to submit a brief regarding that. I will tell you for whatever it's worth, it is an award that is not granted often, at least by me. And so, understand one case stands out in my mind as one that I have done that on. And I say that just to say that should it be reviewed and I choose not to do it, please don't view that as any indication, any statement in any regards for the work that was done today. And so
absolutely, Your Honor. I pick up on context clues very well. All I would ask is that if you would instruct Ms. Reed to return my client's keys and just give each party kind of like a word on being civil and going through this divorce process. It really should be expedited because there's not much between the parties.
I'll ask this question to you first, counsel, or are we sure that that's in petitioner's possession and not the sheriff's?
My client's keys.
Yes.
I'm
I
not,
guess actually the first question I can ask your client, is this something that was removed from your possession at the time of service or at some other point in the timeline?
She took the keys on January 6th. That's how she's been locking me out the house. So,
Okay. And so what I would say is, Ms. Reed, at what
Judge.
point would you expect to be?
Can I just say something? I took the keys because Samira threatened to lock me out. When I started locking the storm door was when I spoke to Deputy Johnson from the Cobb Sheriff Department on
Okay, we're putting all this behind
February
us.
15th, and he let me know that she made arrangements to pick up the TPO. So she was aware of it. So she didn't get
15th of what? Not important here. So,
she took my client's keys after she
I'm not doing any of this.
was asking that she return the keys so that she can get inside the house.
A house key needs to be left at a safe, obvious, and secure location so that she can make entry. Alternatively, you can be prepared to open the door. Whichever one of those is right. And then if you're the one to open the door, then the key needs to be available inside. I say this without any judgment. I don't leave a key under my mat. Let me be clear. And so if people aren't comfortable doing so, I respect that. And also we're broadcasting this on YouTube to comply with public courtroom requirements. So I'm not going to have y'all put out here, it'll be at this exact location. No, but one of two things needs to be handled. Also, you two, now that the order is not in effect, have a means of communicating. And so you can put the key somewhere that it is attainable and you can notify that person via text message where it is, or you can be prepared to open the door with the key waiting for them inside. But they should not be denied access to the property under the circumstances. And then once that's done, each party already has their own bedroom. And to the extent that common spaces need to be shared, they can be done without any incivility, harassment, or unnecessary acknowledgement of the other. I'm sure in things like kitchens, where there are ovens, microwaves, et cetera, that need to be used. And when something goes in the oven, it might take 30 minutes. If somebody gets in or is working with those things first, then the other party can wait a turn or cook using other necessary devices. If someone else is on the oven, then you can have the stove or the microwave, for example. But the parties here are clearly adults that are capable of conducting themselves in that courteous manner. And so I know that the situation you find yourselves in is not the one that you wanted or hoped for, when the marriage started out, but it is the one that we find ourselves in for a little while, not for a long time, but for a little while moving forward until this is resolved. And so, all parties may be excused. I'll place you all, our team will place you in the